Alberta is calling, and the question is, are you going to answer the phone call? You've probably heard the ads on the radio, maybe driving to work. You've probably seen the ads all over the internet. You've probably seen them on TV, if anybody watches TV anymore, I guess live sports, right? But you've seen the ads that Alberta is really trying to get you to move there. One of the great things for Alberta, and one of the big challenges for residents of British Columbia and Ontario, the two provinces that they're really targeting, is the advertising's really good. And there's no easier way of marketing something and having really good marketing when a lot of what you're marketing is true. They're doing a great job about getting this out there. In fact, they've spent about $2 million promoting the benefits of living in Alberta to the residents of BC and Ontario. This video is really for anyone living in my area of South Surrey, White Rock, Surrey, British Columbia. If you are considering making the move to Alberta, well, this video is definitely for you. What you're gonna find after you watch this video is you're gonna know the full scoop of the information that's being offered to you if you have considered moving to Alberta. You're gonna have everything at your fingertips, and you're gonna be able to make an informed choice, and you're gonna feel really good about your choice because you're gonna get the full story. Of course, if you're someone that's thinking of moving, that likely means you're also probably thinking about buying a home or investing in real estate. So be sure to watch this video right till the very end, because I've got something really cool for anybody out there that is looking to buy a home that's gonna really test your knowledge to see how ready you are to do it. So hang around to the end and I'll make sure you get access to that. What's good, everybody? It's Darren German from the German Group. We know you've only got one chance to either buy or sell your next home, so we're here to help you get it right. You're gonna see a subscribe button float on the screen any second, and the reason for that is because we don't want you to miss out on any of the incredible videos we're releasing on a regular basis to help you either become a better homeowner, a better home buyer, or a better home seller. So subscribe and you'll get notified each time a new video comes out. So as I mentioned, Alberta is pressing heavy, $2 million heavy, on getting residents of Ontario and BC to relocate to Alberta. And it's not really specific to all of BC and Ontario, it's really to the people of the Vancouver, Lower Mainland, and the residents of the GTA or Toronto. But Alberta's pushing really, really hard. In fact, one of the reasons they're pushing so hard is because they know that people are already thinking about it. They know that Stats Canada, according to Stats Canada, in the third quarter of 2022, the net migration to Alberta was almost 20,000 people, while provinces like Ontario, well, they actually lost people. 11,500 almost in Ontario. And for those of you that live in BC that are likely watching this video, the majority of you, we didn't fare much better. We lost about 4,500 people to net migration in Q3 of 2022. We've all got our stereotypes too about what it might be like to live in Alberta. And if you're not from BC, you've got your stereotype of what it's like to live in BC. You know, if all of the provinces were siblings, BC is the yoga instructor, vegan food eating, electric car driving, going for a walk after they picked up their Starbucks to go to the beach, likely somewhat tired from a late night out before eating sushi with their friends type of sibling. If you're the sibling that is Alberta, your stereotype is that you are probably the loudest one in the family. You're probably driving an F-150 truck and you eat steak with absolutely everything. You probably had a short stint on the oil rigs. You're very proud of your cheap beer and make sure all of your other siblings know about it. And you probably have a snowmobile sitting in your garage. Now, before you hit up the comments section with any hate, I'm not doing that to hate. That's just a joke. That is some of the stereotypes that people really think about the different provinces. And of course, they are very different. However, there's a website that's been launched as part of this advertising campaign by the Alberta government to try and get your attention to go relocate there. And they did a pretty good job. The website is called Alberta is Calling, and they feature a lot of really interesting things on this website that would get me thinking if I was thinking of relocating out of maybe the Lower Mainland or the GTA, really because it's just getting so darn expensive to live in these areas. They promote some very interesting things on here, like the cost of owning a home or the cost of renting a home. They also promote what the average take-home salary is. They talk a lot about the quality of life that people get to enjoy in the province of Alberta. And it's a really interesting website. And actually, I'm going to recommend you go check it out. It's Alberta is Calling, and we will be sure to put a link below in the description. But the purpose of today's video is not to slam Alberta. That's certainly not it. I've got lots of friends in Alberta. I've got family in Alberta, and I absolutely love Alberta. I love visiting it. In fact, I'm going to be jumping on a plane in 2 days to go to Banff, which is like heaven on earth if you've never been there. It's one of the most beautiful communities ever, although it is very cold. They feature some things on this website, which, you know, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt, because just like anything, you've got one party telling you all the amazing things about themselves, but there's no one else there really part of the conversation that gets to tell them about what might be missing from that. You're never going to go to a restaurant and they're going to tell you about all the bad things that happen at that restaurant or how bad the service can be sometimes. They're only going to tell you all the good stuff. And of course, that's exactly what this website is doing. They also promote some stuff on there that compares Alberta to none. They really kind of make it seem like they've got the best and the best and the best of all these different things. And while they certainly do in some areas, there's some things that maybe you might not agree with. Like, as an example, saying that it's only 20 minutes to the mountains. Well, that's true for some of the cities in Alberta, like Calgary, but it's certainly not the same case for many of the cities in Alberta. And I'll give it to you. You've got Canmore, you've got Banff, we've got Whistler, we've got the North Shore Mountains. So, you know, take it for what it is. They feature Edmonton Park, one of the largest parks with great man-made walkways and manicured places and all that. Well, you know, I'll trade you that for Stanley Park in Vancouver, which is pretty darn nice. They talk about how they've got the largest fringe festival in North America and the second largest in the world. Now, I've got to admit, I didn't even know what a fringe festival was. I had to look it up, but apparently it's important to people if they decided to promote it. With that being said, I would trade the Festival of Lights, the fireworks show put on in downtown Vancouver in the summer, for the Fringe Festival, which is a theater festival, any day, because it's unbelievable. Or what about things like the Vancouver International Jazz Festival? I mean, if you've ever been to that, you certainly want to go back because it's a pretty incredible experience. I really wanted this video, though, to give you some ideas about what's not being said on this website. So if you've had the opportunity to check it out, let's remind you about a few of the things that they're really not bringing to your attention. I'm going to caveat this by saying, first of all, Alberta is really big. You can't say move to Alberta and suggest there's all these awesome things in Alberta without really kind of clarifying that, well, yeah, there's awesome things all over, but certain cities offer different things, like driving to the mountains as an example. Very easy for somebody in Calgary to get to Banff or Canmore, but it's a heck of a lot of a longer drive for somebody that lives in Edmonton. So don't mix all the cities into the same bucket. You can't pretend it's the same. You can't pretend it's the same place. It's a big province. One of the things they fail to mention on this website as well is the weather in Alberta. Have you ever been to Alberta in the winter? Now, they promote that they get 333 days of sun in a year. And now, as a Vancouverite, I think that's amazing. And that is so exciting. But they don't talk about the temperature. According to weatherspark.com, in Edmonton, during the coldest month of the year, the average low in Edmonton in January is minus 14 degrees Celsius with a daily high of minus 1 degree Celsius. Now, that sounds pretty cold to me being from Vancouver. In our winter seasons, our average daily high is 9 degrees Celsius, which is considerably warmer, 10 degrees in fact. And our coldest month on average, which is usually December, has an average low of 2 degrees Celsius, not minus 14. So if you are going to move to Alberta, you need to bring some warmer coats with you. Let's keep going. There's things that I could bring up, like access to the border. And of course, there's areas in Alberta that have access to the border as well, but our big cities are much closer to the border than those in Alberta. I'm not really going to get started with the mountains because, yeah, there's some great ski hills and mountains in Alberta, but I don't think it's really comparable to that of the North Shore or Whistler or anything like that we have pretty easy access to, because really BC is completely mountains. There's mountains that go right through the middle of BC all the way up. So everybody's got access to mountains in a very close proximity. Into sailing? Well, you're probably not doing a whole lot of sailing in Edmonton or Calgary because there's no ocean there. And sure, you could go sit by the beach of the local river. That's fine. And there's lakes and whatnot as well. But of course, we got lots of lakes here, but there's no ocean in Alberta. There's only ocean in British Columbia. And the east coast of Canada too. I didn't forget about you guys. And I guess there's Hudson's Bay as well. And okay, but anyways, no ocean in Alberta. You get it. Now let me get into politics for a sec, Alberta. Not a chance. I am not touching that one. I'm gonna leave it there. We're not gonna talk anything about Alberta politics because I think that's a bad idea. The rest of the country will just sit and watch and kind of see how it goes for you. But anyways, good luck. What about jobs? Well, this Alberta is calling website suggests that there is a ton of opportunity for job openings in Alberta, which I'm sure is very true. But if you live in BC, you know, we have a massive labor shortage in many areas as well. And this website claims to be one of the tech capitals of Canada. And this website claims to have lots of growth and opportunity for tech, which I'm sure is true. But it's not really known as a tech hub, is it? According to techtalent.ca, the biggest cities in Canada for tech talent start with Toronto, then go Ottawa, and then Vancouver. Now, Calgary is number 6 on the list, and well, Edmonton doesn't even make the list, to be honest. What about universities? You know, of course, there's some great universities in Alberta, but they're not ranked as high as some of the other universities in Canada. Specifically, you've got McGill coming in number 3, which is in the Montreal area. You've got University of British Columbia, which is in Vancouver and Victoria. They came in at number 2, and you've got the University of Toronto. These are the rankings of the best global list of universities in Canada by US News. And that's a pretty big deal. I mean, you want to pick the best university for your education, and it also helps with your career. Not saying the universities in Alberta aren't great, but there's just better ranked universities outside of Alberta, which was okay. Now, the elephant in the room is always house prices. And yeah, I get it. It's very expensive to live in Vancouver. It's very expensive to live in the Lower Mainland. It's very expensive to live in Toronto and the GTA. And there's no doubt that Alberta has cheaper options, less expensive options for your housing needs. But nobody really talks a lot about what's really happened in the real estate market. What? So I want to give you an example of how things have played out in the last 10 years. And you can kind of arm yourself with this as you consider moving maybe yourself and or your family over to the province of Alberta. According to the Canadian Real Estate Association's Home Price Index, Alberta over the last 10 years did see a growth in prices, which is awesome. You want to see your house price rise, obviously, because it's a big investment and you sink a lot of money into it. You want to see that grow. Of course, we all do. Alberta house prices over the last 10 years, according to the Home Price Index, grew about 26.6%, which, hey, is nothing to shake a stick at. That's pretty awesome. Kind of exciting. 26% year over year, last 10 years, you did well. Good job, Alberta. But before we start putting some hate on towards the house prices in British Columbia, let's also talk about the same investment you could have made in buying a home in BC 10 years ago. According to the Home Price Index, BC's home prices in the last 10 years have grown 89.4%. 89.4%. That's a big number. Now, that doesn't necessarily have any reflection on what's going to happen in the future, but there's no doubt that when people think of Canada, they normally think of the premier cities of Vancouver and Toronto. And not to say that there's not premier cities in Alberta, they're amazing and I love visiting them, but those are the cities that people typically think about. So if you're going to be investing in real estate, you need to think of how much your investment is going to grow over time. And if the future is to predict what happened in the past, well, you might consider that you're going to have bigger growth in some other provinces, more specifically in BC and Ontario. One of the last things I'll leave you with is a study that was done by Merrill Blue on the perception of Alberta compared to how the rest of the Canada feels versus how Alberta feels about itself. It's kind of like somebody that thinks they're really good looking, but nobody else does, and they kind of walk around thinking they are. I don't know. According to this study, only 50% of Canadians would even feel comfortable living in Alberta. And it doesn't really expand as to why that is, but that's an interesting number. That's only 1 out of 2. Only 59% of the rest of Canada agreed that Alberta is welcoming to new immigrants. And that may or may not be true, but that's the perception. According to this study, the rest of Canada also only thinks that only 47% of Albertans actually even care about climate change, which hopefully isn't true, but that's what the study found. So there you have it. There's some information that Alberta is calling might not have provided for you. And that doesn't mean it's right or wrong to relocate from Alberta, or to Alberta rather, from anywhere. That's not the point of this video. The point is to really give you the full scope of knowledge, so if you are considering it, you can make a really good decision, or at least know that you need to dive a little bit deeper. So be sure to check out their website if you are considering it. Be sure to do your homework and really understand what you're getting into, because it is a really significant thing to jump provinces. And always remember that what you're being fed isn't necessarily telling you the whole story. And the goal of this whole video is for you, if you decide to stay in BC or Ontario, you should feel pretty good about it too, because it is, of course, a pretty awesome place to live, regardless of how expensive it might be to own a home. Would we all like to see it cheaper? Yeah, probably. But hey, it's pretty awesome here. Now, I mentioned at the start of the video, if you are someone that is considering buying a home, we have left a link in the description for a home buyer's quiz, which you would be very surprised that 8 out of 10 people don't get them all right, because hey, they think they know what they're doing when it comes time to buying a home, and they don't. So take the quiz and you'll get the answers right away. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's pretty fun, and you'll get to know how prepared you are to buy a home. Of course, while you're snooping around, down in the description as well, there is a link to our calendar where if you are someone buying or selling a home and you need some help or some advice, book some time with us and you'll get to speak directly with me. We'll fill you in on exactly what you need to know to help you be successful. As always, it was great to see you and we appreciate you watching. I hope you imagine your next 10 years when you are living in British Columbia or Alberta, and all I can ask is that you have a big smile on your face because you are so happy with your informed decision. Looking very forward to seeing you on the next video because you subscribed, right? You got it.